My parents' marriage ended when I, 34 female, was 10 years old. At the time, I didn't understand why my dad was so devastated, or why my mom seemed so eager to move on. It wasn't until I was older that I learned the truth. My mom had been having an affair, and when she got pregnant with my half-sister Lily, 24 female, it marked the end of their marriage. The divorce was messy, but my dad tried his best to protect me from the worst of it. He fought hard for custody and was awarded joint custody, so I split my time between his house and my mom's new household with her affair partner, now stepdad, and eventually Lily. It didn't take long for me to notice the stark difference between how I was treated at my dad's house versus at my mom's. At my dad's house, I was his priority. He made sure I knew I was loved and supported, and he always showed up for me, whether it was a school play or a bad day. At Mom's house, it was clear that Lily was the star of the show. From the moment she was born, my mom and stepdad doted on her endlessly. Every milestone Lily hit was celebrated like it was a national holiday, while my accomplishments were brushed aside or downplayed. For example, when I graduated high school, my mom and stepdad threw me a small dinner at home. It was nice, but very low-key. When Lily graduated, they rented a banquet hall, hired a professional photographer, and invited what felt like the entire town. It wasn't just the big events either. Little things, like who got the biggest slice of cake or the nicest birthday gifts, always seemed to go Lily's way. Growing up, I had mixed feelings about Lily. She was an adorable, bubbly child who thrived on attention, and while I loved her as my sister, it was hard not to feel a sting every time I was overlooked in favor of her. That said, I tried not to hold it against her. It wasn't her fault our parents treated us so differently, and she was just a kid. As we got older, we developed a cordial relationship. We were never especially close, but we weren't enemies either. Still, there's always been an underlying tension. Lily enjoys being the center of attention, and I've often felt like I had to step aside to accommodate her. I got married young, at 24, to my college sweetheart. At the time, I thought it was forever, but life doesn't always go the way you plan. We grew apart over the years, and despite trying to make it work, we eventually divorced. It was amicable, but the experience was still one of the most challenging periods of my life. A few years after my divorce, I met Mark, 38 male. We were introduced through mutual friends, and there was an instant connection. Mark had also been married before, so we bonded over our shared experiences and the lessons we'd learned. Mark is kind, supportive, and emotionally intelligent, and he treats me with a level of respect I didn't know exists. After 2 years of dating, he proposed, and I said yes without hesitation. This is a second marriage for both of us, but it feels just as special, if not more so, because we've both found someone who truly understands and values us. Mark and I decided on a small but elegant wedding with close friends and family. Having both been through big, elaborate weddings before, we wanted something more intimate this time around. However, we still wanted it to feel special, so we allocated a reasonable budget for the event. When we shared the news with our families, most people were thrilled for us, except for my mom. From the very beginning, she questioned the necessity of the wedding. "Do you really need to do this all over again?" she asked. "You're both already married once. Why not just go to the courthouse and save the money?" I tried to brush it off. "We want to celebrate with the people we love," I said. But my mom kept bringing it up. Every time we talked about the wedding, she found a way to suggest it wasn't necessary or that we were wasting money. At first, I thought she was just being her usual dismissive self, but then she made her true motives clear. One evening, Mom called me and said, "You know, Lily is getting married next year, and she could really use some help with the costs. Since it's her first wedding and such an important milestone, wouldn't it make more sense to put the money towards hers instead?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious?" I asked, laughing in disbelief. "Yes," she said, "completely serious. You and Mark have both had weddings before. It's not as important this time around. Lily deserves her dream wedding, so you could rather give that money for her wedding and you can have something simple. It's the practical thing to do." Her words hit me like a slap in the face. My own mother was suggesting that I cancel my wedding, the celebration of my love and commitment to Mark, so that I could funnel the money into Lily's wedding instead. I laughed again, but not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe the audacity. "Wow, Mom," I said, "you've really outdone yourself this time. If you can't even be happy for me, then maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding at all." She was shocked. "You don't mean that," she said. "Oh, I mean it," I replied. "If you can't support me and Mark, and if you're more concerned about Lily's wedding than mine, then you don't need to be there." I hung up before she could say anything else. Since that conversation, my mom hasn't been calling. My aunt called me saying my mother is extremely insulted and hurt. Lily, to her credit, hasn't taken sides. She told me she had no idea Mom was going to suggest such a thing and apologized for the drama. As of now, my mom is still uninvited, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. This isn't just about the wedding. It's about years of feeling like I was second best. My mom has always prioritized Lily over me, and this was the final straw. Mark and I are moving forward with our plans. My dad, who has always been my biggest cheerleader, is walking me down the aisle, and I couldn't be happier to have him by my side. Part of me feels guilty for uninviting my mom, but another part of me knows it was the right thing to do. I've spent my entire life trying to earn her approval, and I'm done putting her happiness above my own. Reddit: am I the a-hole for standing my ground? OP's mom has clearly prioritized OP's half-sister over OP for years, and this suggestion is just another glaring example of that. Asking OP to cancel her wedding, her celebration of love and a fresh start with Mark, is outrageous. OP is absolutely right to stand her ground. If she can't support OP and be happy for her, she doesn't deserve to be part of OP's special day. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. This isn't just about a wedding. It's about your mom's blatant favoritism and disrespect for you. She clearly sees Lily's milestones as more important than yours, and that's unacceptable. You've done the right thing by setting boundaries and prioritizing your happiness. Don't let anyone guilt you into compromising. Enjoy your wedding with the people who truly love and support you. Not the a-hole. Your mom's behavior is absurd. Just because it's your second wedding doesn't make it any less meaningful. The fact that she even suggested canceling your wedding to fund your sister's shows how little she values your happiness. You're not selfish for wanting to celebrate your love. Going no contact with her for now might be the healthiest choice. You deserve peace and joy on your big day. Not the a-hole. Your mom crossed a huge line, and it's clear this isn't the first time she's treated you as an afterthought. You're doing the right thing by focusing on your wedding and the people who actually support you. It sounds like Mark and your dad have your back, which is all that matters. Let your mom deal with the consequences of her actions. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. You deserve every bit of happiness. I'm 37 male, the oldest of 4 boys. The subject of this post, Tom, 29 male, is the youngest and was recently married. Tom has always been the cheapest, most selfish, dishonest, and self-centered person I've ever known. If he wasn't my brother, I wouldn't have anything to do with him. I love him, but I really dislike him, and I avoid being around him if possible. The straw that broke the camel's back was 6 years ago when my mother passed away, and we found out he has gone into her room and taken some jewelry, meant for another of our brothers, and pawned it. We only found out because he had left his wallet at my parents' house, and the pawn ticket was visible. Since then, I would describe my feelings to him as detached indifference. When my wife and I got married 2 years ago, he was of course invited with a +1, not his new wife. My wife comes from a really loving, thoughtful, and generous family, and hadn't understood why my 2 other brothers and myself didn't really care for Tom, even after a couple of Christmases where she had brought him gifts and he didn't reciprocate. I've told her over the course of our relationship to expect nothing from him, and you won't be disappointed. But once it was over, she was upset that neither Tom or his +1 even bothered to give us a card. Fast forward to last month, and Tom got married. My dad, who I think dislikes my brother's behavior, although he would never say it, contributed to the cost of the wedding, as did Tom's new in-laws. My wife wanted to buy something off of their registry or contribute to a honeymoon fund they set up for around $200 to $250, which is usually our standard gift amount. But I refused. I told her I'm not going to reward his thoughtlessness and spend that much money on him. My wife asked me not to create drama, and I said we'll give them a gift, but it's sure not going to be $200. In the end, we showed up with a nice card and a gift-wrap box of 6 personalized mason jars that cost around $25. 2 days ago, Tom's new mother-in-law called me and asked if mine and my wife's gift got lost in the mail. I've never spoken to this woman before or since the wedding. When I told her no, she said the dinner alone was at least $125 per person, and that giving a gift worth $25 was extremely rude, and that she expected more from Tom's brothers. I told her that I felt the same way about Tom and that my wife and I gave him more than he gave us at our wedding. She then told me that since I'm the most successful out of all of my brothers, her daughter and Tom had been expecting at least $1,000 from my wife and I for their honeymoon, and that she expected us to do right by them. I told her to piss off and hung up. My wife is now upset at the drama and says we should have just given them the $200 like she originally wanted. My dad told me that Tom is angry at me and thinks I'm a jerk, but my dad shrugged his shoulders and told Tom that I was right about him not even giving a card for my wedding. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The mother-in-law is a piece of work. A wedding is not a transaction, and I really resent people trying to get you to pay back the cost of your meal. Sell tickets to the wedding if you're that cheap, but don't expect to make a profit. Sickening. Not the a-hole at all, but Tom's new mother-in-law sure sounds like a lunatic. I'd worry his new family will be a terrible influence, but sounds like he'll fit right in. Holy spit! What a loon! You, for absolute sure, are not the a-hole for that conversation. As for your little bro, not the a-hole there either. Now, maybe you could have done the bigger person thing and bought them something a little more practical for newlyweds other than mason jars. But overall, I think you were clear. In life, we reap what we sow, and his field was barren. My brother and I are twins, born shortly after our Indian parents came to U.S. As brown kids, school was rough, but we were always there for each other. My brother got into an Ivy League school. I got into a good uni. In uni, I met my future husband and his D-bag BFF. D-bag. So after uni, husband and I decided to marry. Major drama followed at home. Husband is white, but brother really stood up for us and eventually things turned around. I married husband. A year later, my brother went to India for work. He was there for 3 years, met an Indian girl, fell in love, got married, and decided to come back to U.S. in 2015. Sister-in-law got a job in a company where husband and D-bag work. In December 2017, brother discovered sister-in-law was cheating on him for 4 months with D-bag. He was devastated. Sister-in-law left him for D-bag after New Year's, but D-bag discarded her. Sister-in-law had a mental breakdown and did something that got her deported. My brother became a recluse and started avoiding everyone. In May 2018, he got a really good job opportunity in Qatar. He took it and moved away. But before going away, he gave us the full truth. Husband knew about the affair and even helped D-bag and sister-in-law hide the affair. This caused a major strain in my relationship with husband. Husband has apologized to everyone and deeply regrets everything. My brother just won't speak to him, and my parents are very cold towards husband. My brother has kept in contact with us for the past 2 years, and he is making 7 figures in Qatar. He also sends my daughter gifts for her birthday. Last Friday on a family call, he informed us that sister-in-law, after going back to India, got medical help for her bipolar disorder and low self-esteem. He has been making short trips to India since April 2018 to meet up with her and his in-laws till March 2020. Now, during virus, they have talked about living together in Qatar after everything normalizes. He has asked my parents to come join him in Qatar as he never wishes to return to U.S. I'm against my parents moving to Qatar since I'd be left without any family here, but I think my parents are considering it. So finally I asked, since he has forgiven sister-in-law, when does he plan to forgive my husband and move on? I would like for things to go back to normal. He said he owes my husband nothing, not forgiveness nor relationship. Even if he forgives my husband, he won't ever forget what happened. This made me lose my mind. I told him it feels like he is punishing me for what happened, especially trying to take mom and dad away with him. Why is he being such an a-hole? He told me my husband is the a-hole and not everything is about me. He needs to live his own life and I should too. He gave mom and dad a proposal. They can decide for themselves, then cut off the call. Now he isn't taking my calls and my parents are angry at me. Am I the a-hole? You want your parents around? Shocker. He does too. It has nothing to do with you. Yes, the a-hole. Yes, the a-hole. One of the basic rules of reconciliation after infidelity is to cut out anyone who encouraged it. Your husband was an accomplice. He betrayed your family, specifically your brother who stood up for him. Your brother is right. There is no reason for him to engage with your husband in any way. I would have voted no a-hole if you had just been disappointed in the consequences of your husband's actions. You ratcheted up to become the a-hole, though, by calling his offer to your parents punishment. Framing your parents' decision as taking sides and abandoning you is complete a-hole territory. Yes, the a-hole. He has incentive to forgive his wife. He loves her, and that is his choice. He isn't required to forgive your husband. And even if he chose to forgive, forgiveness does not equal reconciliation. Also, your parents can move where they want, when they want. They don't need your permission. Your brother isn't taking them away. He's made them an offer. He's entitled to tell his own parents he wants them to move with them, just as you can express your feelings towards your parents. You can't, however, control them. A bit of a long story here. I, 33 male, got engaged to my longtime partner, 30 female, this summer. My brother, 29 male, got engaged to his partner, 29 female, literally a week later. We have never been fans of my brother's choice in partner. She is very self-absorbed and emotionally manipulative, and has driven wedges between my brother and multiple family members. The family generally sees her as a bit of a gold digger. She even planned her own Disney proposal and guilted my brother into dropping $13,000 on a ring for her. She also tried to get my brother to cut ties with our youngest brother at one point, as she and him never saw eye to eye. She doesn't have a great relationship with her own mom, and has generally latched onto our mom as her de facto mother figure. She will constantly call and text her throughout the day. She also has a habit of inviting herself along when my mom is going out to dinner with other people, relatives. It annoys my mom to no end, but she's too polite to say anything about it. She even went wedding dress shopping with her a few weeks ago. Anytime somebody says something to my brother, he gets very defensive and says not to involve him. With that said, after they got engaged, we tried to make nice. I had even agreed to officiate their wedding, as I have done that for friends in the past. My fiancée went shopping for her wedding dress this weekend. She invited my mom and her own mom, and stepmom flew in from out of town. While they were getting brunch beforehand, my brother's fiancée kept calling and texting my mom asking to be invited out. My mom told her to ask my fiancé, something she never did. My fiancé only wanted the moms and didn't even invite her bridesmaids. After she kept persisting, I texted my brother and asked him to tell her to stop, which she did. I thought that was the end of it, but apparently, my future sister-in-law threw a giant tantrum afterwards. My mom tried to call my brother, and she picked up his phone to tell my mom she isn't speaking to her. My point of view is that she owes both my fiancé and my mother apologies. She tried to invite herself to an event that had nothing to do with her, but which was a very important life event for my fiancé. She then proceeded to make it about herself when she set some very reasonable boundaries. She never once asked my fiancé's permission. With that said, her narrative of events is that we meanly went out of our way to tell her she wasn't welcome. Am I the a-hole for refusing to officiate or even attending my brother's wedding if they don't have the courtesy to even apologize to my fiancé? Marinara, marinara! Red flags everywhere! First of all, not the a-hole. This woman is codependent as duck. A side note, if you want them to take a step back and have a serious conversation, take them camping for a week where there's no cell reception. It will show everyone who they are without each other, for good or bad. You sit back with a branch and some marshmallows. Not the a-hole. Your future sister-in-law is pushy and a nightmare, and you all need to start standing up to her and backing each other up. Your poor mom needs to remember she has a spine and wasn't born a jellyfish. Everyone needs to set firm boundaries with this nut job. It's only going to get worse. You are not the a-hole. You should only officiate what you want, when you want, if you want. You have no obligation to do it if you don't feel like it. I think your mother deserves an apology, since she was the one being bothered and was the target of the tantrum. Since your future sister-in-law never spoke to your fiancé, I'm not 100% sure if she deserves an apology too or not. A few years ago, I met this woman, Maggie. She was on a work visa originally from Europe. After casually dating for a few months, she told me she was pregnant and she wanted to keep the baby. I wasn't happy about this at all. This is not how I pictured starting my family. I was always careful and wore protection, even though she told me she was on birth control. After many discussions, I resigned myself to my fate of becoming a dad. I had no interest in having a romantic relationship with Maggie, something she kept pushing for. So the baby arrives, and I just fall in love with her instantly. I ended up loving being a dad to her, and me and Maggie seem to be doing an okay job of managing to co-parent. One day out of the blue, Maggie tells me she's met someone. Initially, I'm okay with it, only slightly concerned, as this will be a new person in our daughter's life. Then, she hit me with the kicker. He lived all the way on the East Coast, and she planned on moving and taking our daughter with her. It was like a gut punch. I immediately told her that wasn't happening, and I wouldn't allow it. It turned into a pretty big screaming match with her pretty much telling me she's doing it, and there's nothing I can do to stop her. For the next few days, I couldn't eat or sleep properly. On a conversation with my brother, he told me to go talk to a lawyer. Something about my brother, he's always been a calculating son of a biscuit. Remember that work visa? He reminded me to bring up the fact that it had expired quite a while ago. Well, I did that. Long story short, Maggie got deported and banned from entering the country for several years, and I got full custody. This wasn't my first choice, but I'll take it over only seeing my daughter once, possibly twice a year. I was telling a close friend the story, and she told me I did the wrong thing and that I shouldn't have taken the daughter away from her mother. I said she planned on taking her away from me and playing house with a man I knew nothing about, and she barely knew. So I'm here asking, am I the a-hole? Edit. I know I left out a lot of details. I'll try and fill some in. 1. I did try and talk her out of moving a few more times. She refused. 2. I asked if she would consider handing me primary custody. She refused. 3. I asked her to leave our daughter here with me for the first few months, just to see if they would work out. She refused. 4. I asked if he would move here. She said he couldn't and never gave any real reasons. 5. I am the father without a doubt. DNA test. 6. My work doesn't permit me much time off. At best, I would have only been able to fly out 2 times in a year. 7. My whole family is here, and I have always played a big part in our daughter's life. Her mother visited once. 8. I did file for child support on the advice of my lawyer, although I haven't ever received a penny. I never chased it. 9. I did agree to fly out once, and she canceled. Never tried to arrange anything more. 10. She does video chat with our daughter regularly, and my daughter knows who she is. Everyone sucks here. She shouldn't plan to move so far away without your consent. That shouldn't be legally possible with shared custody. But you deported the mother of your daughter. Holy cow. You will pay a fortune for therapy sessions. Everyone sucks here. You could have gone to court and tried to get a custody arrangement which would have prevented her moving. You could have told your ex about her visa and given her warning. Now your baby won't see her mom for 6 years. You are a huge a-hole. Obviously, she is also the a-hole for trying to move cross-country. I don't think he's a major a-hole. She was being highly unreasonable and didn't want to even try to work something out with him. She kept antagonizing him. If you had a child and you knew they were getting taken away from you for a very long time, wouldn't you try to do whatever you could to stay with her? And a court case and custodies are very unfair. Most of the time, the court and jury are lenient towards the mother, as it's stereotyped that the mother is the one with all the love and care for the kid. And in a lot of court cases, even if the mother is in the wrong, they get the major part of the custody. So I think he's not the a-hole. I agree they could have done something else, but she was being unreasonable, and he wanted nothing to do with her. And out of nowhere comes her new man that wants to take away her biological child. My paternal family owns a small local business. A number of non-family employees work there, but it is entirely run by family. I am due to inherit my dad's share in a couple of years. He died when I was 7, and it's in trust for me until I turn 25. My stepfather and his brother lost their business due to virus and have been out of work for many months, but tried to find work, but their age goes against them. So my stepfather applied for a position in the family business and was denied. He was pissed and asked me to get him a job there. Then mentioned that his brother needed a job too, and if I could get him in too, he would appreciate it. I told him no, that it wasn't a wise idea. He told me they should be helping him out since he's my parent and raised me, their niece and granddaughter, and it should count for something. I pointed out that they also have bad blood, that he and my mom blamed them for my not wanting to be adopted by him because they wouldn't encourage it, and that they also feel like they refuse to allow me to forget about my dad. I pointed out it wouldn't be a good place for him to work. He said he would suffer through until this whole thing is over. I told him that he didn't belong in the business, that it was my paternal family, and the side of my family he hates, and he and his brother are not a part of that, and I would not let that bad blood destroy what they have spent a long time building up. He was real mad at how I worded that. He told me it was a bratty thing to say, and as his daughter, I need to think more about him and less about them. Now, what I said is where I'm struggling, about him not belonging, because I can admit it was harsh. But also, I'm a little like, it's not untrue, and the fact that bad blood is there means he especially doesn't belong there. Am I the a-hole? But you aren't his daughter, you're his stepdaughter, And if he wanted you to forget your dad and be adopted, regardless of how you actually felt about it, he clearly wasn't a good stepfather. You don't owe him anything. Not the a-hole. Is he implying he only raised you so you could do him favors? Hiring friends, family, is a slippery slope that can be hard to recover from, especially considering they hate the family that you inherited from. I'm sure there were nicer ways of saying it, but he has no right to demand that of you. Not the a-hole. I cannot stand people who call others bratty because they feel entitled to something. He sounds rotten, and you're making the right choice by not letting a man who thinks he can push you around and talk to you in that manner into the family business. I'm a 45-year-old widower with a 17-year-old daughter named Emily. My wife, Laura, 42 female, and I had been married for 2 years. She has a 16-year-old daughter named Sophie from a previous marriage. When Laura and I met, we were both navigating life as single parents, and our connection felt like a second chance at happiness for both of us. Emily is an outgoing, intelligent girl who excels academically and socially. She's the captain of her school's debate team, plays soccer, and has a tight-knit group of friends. She's also dating a boy named Jake, 17 male, who attends the same school. Jake is well-liked, respectful, and comes from a family we've known for years. Sophie, on the other hand, is more introverted. She struggled with the divorce of her parents and had a hard time adjusting to the new family dynamic when Laura and I got married. Sophie is artistic, loves painting, and has a small circle of friends. Unfortunately, she and Emily have never truly bonded. There's a palpable tension between them, primarily stemming from Sophie's resentment toward Emily. Sophie has had a crush on Jake since middle school. She never acted on it due to shyness and the fear of rejection. When Emily and Jake started dating 6 months ago, Sophie was visibly upset. We tried to address it by encouraging open communication, but Sophie preferred to keep her feelings to herself. Over the past few months, small incidents began to pile up. Sophie would make snide remarks about Emily, accidentally ruin her belongings, or give her the silent treatment during family dinners. Laura and I had had numerous discussions about this behavior. While I believed we needed to set firm boundaries, Laura often dismissed it as typical teenage angst. As a way to bring the family closer, I planned a trip to Hawaii during the school break. It was supposed to be a chance for all of us to bond and create lasting memories. Both girls seemed excited when we announced it. Emily was thrilled about snorkeling and surfing lessons, while Sophie appeared enthusiastic about visiting art galleries and the natural scenery. In the weeks leading up to the trip, tensions seemed to ease slightly. I was hopeful that this vacation might be the turning point in our blended family dynamics. The night before our flight, everyone was packing their bags. Emily came to me in a panic, saying she couldn't find her passport. We tore the house apart searching for it, checking every drawer, every piece of luggage, even the car. It was nowhere to be found. Emily was distraught. Without her passport, she couldn't travel. I suggested we postpone the trip for a day or two while we sorted it out, but Laura was against it. She argued that rescheduling flights and accommodations for the whole family would be a logistical nightmare and financially draining. "Maybe you and Emily can join us later," she suggested. Something felt off. Emily is meticulous and responsible. Losing something as important as a passport was out of character. I had a nagging feeling but didn't want to voice it without proof. The next morning, as Laura and Sophie were preparing to leave for the airport, I noticed Sophie's backpack, and a gut feeling prompted me to check it. I asked Sophie to open her bag. She became defensive, and Laura chastised me for not trusting her. "Sophie wouldn't take it. Stop being paranoid," Laura said. I insisted, and after a heated exchange, Sophie reluctantly opened her backpack. There, tucked between her sketchbooks, was Emily's passport. Emily burst into tears, and Sophie turned red, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Laura was stunned. "Why would you do this?" I asked Sophie, trying to keep my composure. She mumbled something about wanting a vacation without Emily ruining it. She accused Emily of always stealing the spotlight and said she wanted just one thing for herself. Furious and disappointed, I told Laura that the trip was canceled. I couldn't, in good conscience, go on a family vacation after such a betrayal. Emily was hurt, and I needed to prioritize her well-being. Laura was upset. She argued that canceling the trip was unfair to Sophie and her. She believed we could address the issue while still going on vacation. "Sophie made a mistake, but this trip could help mend things," she argued. I disagreed. I felt that rewarding such behavior with a tropical vacation was inappropriate. "Actions have consequences," I said. We need to address this seriously." The next few days at home were tense. Sophie locked herself in her room, refusing to talk. Laura was distant, spending most of her time mediating between Sophie and me. Emily oscillated between sadness and anger. I suggested family therapy, but Laura dismissed it. "You're overreacting. They're teenagers. They'll get over it," she insisted. Feeling isolated, I decided to plan a short getaway for just Emily and me. She deserved some happiness after what happened. I booked a weekend trip to a lakeside cabin where we could relax and spend quality father-daughter time. When Laura found out, she was furious. "So you're just replacing our family vacation with a trip for you two? Excluding us?" she accused. "I needed to do something to make it up to Emily," I explained. "You're welcome to join if you'd like, but Sophie needs to stay home and reflect on her actions." Laura refused. "If Sophie isn't welcome, then neither am I." After returning from the cabin, the household atmosphere had worsened. Laura and I were barely speaking. She believed I was favoring Emily over Sophie, while I felt she was enabling Sophie's harmful behavior. One evening, I sat down with Laura to try to resolve the issue. "We need to be a united front," I said. "Sophie's actions were serious. Hiding a passport isn't a prank, it's sabotage." Laura sighed. "She's struggling to find her place in this family. She feels overshadowed by Emily." "I understand that, but undermining Emily isn't the solution. We need to help her cope in a healthy way." Laura suggested we all go to counseling, but only if I apologize to Sophie for overreacting. "I won't apologize for enforcing consequences," I replied. Weeks turned into months. The household remained divided. Sophie continued to act out, coming home late, ignoring house rules, and her grades began to slip. Laura blamed our lack of understanding, while I saw it as a cry for help that needed professional intervention. Emily tried to stay out of the conflict, but admitted she felt uncomfortable in her own home. She started spending more time at friends' houses and with Jake's family. The final straw came when I discovered that Sophie had been spreading rumors about Emily at school, telling people she was manipulative and untrustworthy. Emily confronted me in tears after overhearing classmates discussing the rumors. I couldn't stand by any longer. I told Laura that if we didn't get Sophie the help she needed, I would have to consider more drastic measures, including living separately. Laura was aghast. "You're willing to break up our family over this?" "I'm trying to save it," I insisted, "but we can't keep ignoring the problem." Realizing that we were at an impasse, I made arrangements for Emily and me to stay with my sister temporarily. I informed Laura of my decision. "Maybe some time apart will give us all perspective," I said. She was silent, tears welling in her eyes. "I never thought it would come to this." So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for canceling the family vacation, taking a separate trip with my daughter, and causing a rift in our family? Sophie hiding Emily's passport wasn't just a mistake. It was a calculated act. Canceling the trip was absolutely the right call. But to be honest, OP could have just gone on that trip with Emily, excluding Sophie, but also planning a separate trip for Emily was a way to make up for what Sophie did. This isn't favoritism. It's about ensuring Emily feels valued. Laura's refusal to address this or consider therapy is enabling Sophie's toxic behavior, also not agreeing to work on her marriage. Everyone in the family would benefit from counseling to resolve these issues. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. Sophie's actions were beyond normal teenage jealousy. They were intentional and malicious. Canceling the vacation sent the message that this kind of behavior has real consequences. Planning something for Emily afterward wasn't playing favorites. It was making things right. Laura dismissing this as typical teen drama is worrying. Therapy is crucial, or Sophie's behavior will escalate further. Not the a-hole. Sophie's behavior is deeply troubling, and it's concerning that Laura isn't taking it seriously. Hiding a passport to sabotage someone isn't normal teenage behavior. Canceling the trip was a fair response, and planning a separate trip for Emily was the least you could do. Therapy is essential, not just for Sophie, but for the family as a whole. You're doing the right thing by standing up for Emily and protecting her well-being. Not the a-hole. Sophie hiding Emily's passport wasn't a prank. It was cruel and deliberate. Canceling the trip was a necessary consequence, and planning a getaway for Emily was completely justified. Laura dismissing this as teenage drama and refusing therapy is enabling Sophie. You're doing the right thing by prioritizing Emily's well-being. This situation needs serious attention before it escalates further. Update. After everything that's happened, I've made the difficult decision to divorce my wife, Laura. The final straw was her continued refusal to acknowledge Sophie's harmful behavior towards Emily, and her constant dismissal of the impact it was having on our family. Emily deserves a home where she feels safe, valued, and respected, and I can no longer subject her to an environment where she's made to feel like an outsider. While I tried to address these issues through open communication and even suggested therapy, Laura's unwillingness to hold Sophie accountable left me with no other choice. This decision wasn't easy, and I'm heartbroken that our blended family couldn't work out. My focus now is on providing Emily with the stability and support she deserves. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and helped me see things clearly. Short version. I do not consider two of my son's kids, adopted stepkids, my grandkids, and my husband, myself, not plan to support them financially or leave them any inheritance. We do plan to pay for any college degree, within reason, and give $100K towards house down payment for our only blood grandchild. Longer and slightly more nuanced version. Son's kid from his first marriage grew up close to us, so we spent a lot of time with Nancy up until she was 11. After divorce, he remarried when Nancy was 13 and moved with his new wife 3 hours away. The wife had 2 kids, 12 and 6, who our son adopted 2 years into marriage. They are happy, and I'm happy for them. It was clear from the get-go that his wife and me, my husband, are very different people. We're absolutely civil and cordial, but I treat her as an acquaintance, friend, rather than my daughter. Also, due to the distance, we never grew very close with her or her kids, and I'll admit I never volunteered to take them in for the summer, etc. They are good kids, but I never had an opportunity or interest in developing that familial relationship with them. That is also true for my son's wife. She never asked them to call us grandparents or insisted on us being very close. We do give kids equal gifts and happily spend holidays together. Historically, I was the main breadwinner in my family, but the company my husband used to work for really took off after our son left the nest. So while he grew up middle class, he likely did not fully appreciate our new worth has increased substantially after his dad's company went public and he sold his interest. So it came as a bit of a surprise when we mentioned to our son that now that Nancy is nearly 18, we wanted to talk about her college fund. Upon hearing the good news, us funding the whole thing, he cheered up substantially and started talking how it's wonderful and generous to offer to pay for 3 kids to go to college. We corrected him immediately. This is only for Nancy. The other 2 kids are for him and his wife to put through school. I've heard a lot of hurtful words and thinly veiled threats since, such as they won't let Nancy have a relationship with us. But she's almost an adult now, so it's not their decision. I'm certain we are free to use our money as we see fit, and husband and I are 100% aligned on this one. But are we a-holes? Not the a-hole. I don't see what reasoning there is. If you never took on a grandparent role, you would suddenly be expected to take on a grandparent role. Not the a-hole. You have a relationship with Nancy that you never had with your son's other children. And although you are not giving money to the other 2 children, you and your husband taking care of Nancy's expenses should allow your son to split the money he saved by not having to pay Nancy's expenses himself on his other children. So, if your son saved $20,000 in his own account that he planned to pay towards Nancy's college, he could instead use $10,000 of his money toward each of his other kids. Also, I highly recommend that you pay the college costs directly to the college and give any monetary support to your granddaughter in a form that can't be accessed by her father. Bank account in just your granddaughter's name, money on her school debit account. No a-hole from a general perspective, but certainly this will piss your family off. You are right. You are not compelled to pay for anyone's education, especially people who you don't consider your grandkids. That being said, your son has every right to be angry with you. You have the means to pay for all of his children's college, and you are only doing it for one of them. You are telling him, through actions and not words, that you do not consider his wife family, nor his children family. That is a hell of a thing to do for money. I ask you, what is more valuable to you? That wealth sitting in your accounts, or a continued positive relationship with your son and his family? Very fair points. I think our take has been reaching out and relationship building goes both ways. My son's wife is a very opinionated person. She made it clear from the get-go it's her way or the highway. We politely made it known that we welcome opinions on things like family vacations we're paying for, food we cook for family gatherings, or gifts we give kids, but we get the final say. For example, I'm happy to book a trip to a nearby lake house instead of a mountain trip, but we're not paying for 5 people to fly to Hawaii. Or we can cook plenty of fish and vegetarian dishes for family gathering. But there's also going to be traditional Christmas ham when they are coming to visit us for the winter holidays. We're all adults, so we're giving them space where they want it. But I'm not at the age where I feel I have to bend over backwards to please someone who isn't too excited about building a relationship with me. I am 20 female. A few weeks ago, my maternal grandmother died. My parents are divorced. My dad had nothing to do with my mom's family after the divorce. He still insisted on being there, even though I told him not to. He's remarried and has stepkids who are 11, 9, and 7. His stepkids are all special needs, and blended family life is super tough for them. They struggle with the concept that I'm not their mom's daughter, that I have another family. To them, their family is mine, and mine is theirs. They used to cry a lot when I was a minor in their home, because they wouldn't want some random woman to take me, my mom. But then when it was explained again, because this was explained often to them, they would just wonder why she wasn't taking them with her too, and they even called her mom sometimes. So they all came to my grandmother's funeral. During the service, a video tribute was played. They all became distressed and upset that they could see me with another family, and all the good times that they were never a part of. It pissed my dad off. He started talking crap to my mom and grandpa about hurting his kids. I ended up pulling him away and telling him to stop being a jerk to them while they're grieving. He started venting about the kids being upset, and I told him they never should have been there in the first place. I told him I had explicitly said I do not want him there either. But they had come anyway and brought them, knowing how much this crap upsets them. I didn't get to say much else because he went all, "How dare you say that about your siblings on me?" We argued a bit more. He laid into me over the whole thing and told me they had every right to be there and to be upset. Am I the a-hole for this exchange? Dad's wife called to ask why I didn't care about her kids' feelings and said we should have been more sensitive towards special needs children. I am guessing, knowing the kids for more than 6 years, witnessing this stuff before, and because I heard from both my dad and his wife a couple of times each, that the kids are still upset by the whole thing. So I get my dad being stressed, but I feel like that's why he should have listened to me in the first place. Not the a-hole. Dad is. If anything, him and his wife are insensitive to the kids' feelings. Exactly this. The only ones who didn't care about the kids' feelings are their parents. OP didn't want any of them there, so they show up anyway, meaning they don't care about her feelings. And when the kids get upset, like OP knew they would, they still blame OP and her grieving family? What is wrong with these people? OP, not the a-hole, but seems like it's time to put some distance there. Not the a-hole. Your dad and his wife caused all of this drama. Your grandma's funeral isn't about their kids. It's about your grandma and her grieving relatives. Your dad's behavior was absolutely appalling. He could have gone alone to pay respects, but his wife and her kids did not belong there. Not the a-hole. It totally makes sense that the funeral of a lady who the father and the kids didn't have a relationship with has to be centered around these kids' feelings, right? But seriously, it's your grandmother's funeral. It's about her and her family. 46 male, me. 45 female, my fiancé. 42 female, ex-wife. My ex-wife and I are on great terms, and throughout, after our marriage, we have been creating a trust fund for our boys, 19 and 16, and they can do what they want with it when they're 24. I have my company that has skyrocketed since I started it 25 plus years ago, due to the need for it in the technological world, and it has branched out throughout the U.S. So our boys and my ex-wife have been very well off, and they'll all be taken care of if I pass, since I don't plan on changing my will yet. Everything goes to them. Our sons are very much interested in taking over the company, and they're both working part-time in the lower jobs to be able to get a feel for the company. The oldest is currently getting his degree, while my youngest is working hard in private school. Now, my fiancée also has 2 boys from her last marriage, 20 and 18, and she has never been on good terms with her ex. She was only married to him for about 4 years and then became a single mother working various jobs, and her boys usually stayed with her mom. We got engaged about 3 years ago, and virus came and pushed the wedding back. Well, her oldest has been having some disagreements with the law and dropped out of community college and is currently working part-time at a store. And her youngest has been really struggling with school since virus and seems to be a p-head. My oldest son has recently been staying at our guest house for the last 3 days and has been telling great stories of his uni and how much he enjoys classes, experience, and he can't wait to start working side by side with me. After he went to bed for the night, my fiancée pulled me aside and asked if I could create a fund for her boys like I have for mine. I told her no, that I posted bail for her oldest, and he doesn't seem to have a plan for his life. And her youngest said he was never going to college because he hates school and that he's going to be a Marine. She got upset, saying that she wasn't able to provide for them like I have for my boys, and they were given different tools for success, and it isn't fair. That they'll be my stepsons, and I need to step up to the plate. I told her that they're adults now, and they're more than welcome to get a job at my company and we can go from there. But she got even more upset and told me I was an a-hole for not taking care of them and hasn't talked to me since. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I don't plan on changing my will until I'm married. Then I'll add my fiancé. She has also signed a prenup too. Yes, prenup and will are both ironclad, bulletproof. They have been reviewed countless times by 3 different attorneys, multiple paralegals, and other workers too. Also, I met her sons for the first time when we were dating for 8 months, and that was a very quick meet-and-greet lunch. Her kids lived with their grandma throughout the rest of our relationship, and even during our engagement. I've only met them a few other times that I could spare because I was very busy then with work and my own sons' lives, and then virus hit, and things just got worse. So maybe seeing them 6 times total, and those were usually just quick hello and a dinner here and there. I had no part in raising them, just helping on bail because their mom couldn't afford it and the tuition. Her youngest son living with us is the most time I've ever seen him, and it's barely been a year at most. Her older lived with us for a month or 2 before she kicked him out. Edit 2. So my fiancé, now life partner, girlfriend, and I have had a discussion, and we are going to couples counseling now, and I have made the choice that we are not getting married anymore, and we will be life partners but nothing legally binding. She was very upset as she really wanted to be married, but she respected my decision. Also, we have also agreed that her son's welfare are her own personal responsibility, and I will split the costs with her on half of whatever she wants to help them with financially. She has her own job and doesn't want to leave it. But if they want to work for the company, then that is a different discussion with both parties. Not the a-hole. I ain't saying she a gold digger, but in all seriousness, if they get their stuff together, help them with school or with a job in the company, but no need for a trust fund. That free money with no accountability for adults you owe nothing to. Not the a-hole. You are not even married yet. Make certain your prenup is valid. She might be a gold digger. Do not count on your kids getting money if she is executor. Not the a-hole. I might feel differently if they were young children, but they're old enough that supporting them doesn't mean quite the same thing as it would if they were minors. For background, my 19 male family owns a property directly on the beach where my friends and I like to take vacations after big events or during school holidays. One of those trips was directly after junior year prom. That night, in a drunken haze, I asked my boyfriend with one of my rings if he wanted to marry me as a joke, and have planned on actually doing it there since then. We've been together for almost 4 years now, are just starting college, and have had many talks about our future already. Our friends, James and Amy, 18 female and male, got together a few months before I asked out my boyfriend, and James pulled me aside to tell me that he was planning on proposing during our graduation trip to the beach house. My first concern was about how Amy was getting ready to go to art school, and she seemed so insanely stressed out. A big proposal and the thought of planning a wedding was probably the last thing that she needed right now. I asked him if it was really the right time for getting married, and if he had talked to her about having a future, and he said they haven't talked much about it at all. I did my best to convince him, but he just wouldn't budge. It turned into an argument when I flat out asked him to not propose to Amy at the beach house whatsoever. That if he wanted to do it at a beach, do it at a different one. After he pestered me about it and told me I wasn't going to change his mind, I told him about how eventually I wanted to propose to my boyfriend there because it's a very sentimental spot. James then told me it wasn't his fault that I wasn't ready for marriage and he loves Amy a lot. This made me angry, and I told him that he can't assume that I don't love my partner as much as he loves his because I'm not ready for that kind of commitment. He said that if I did, I'd be proposing first and we wouldn't have to have this fight. The talk went on for a while, but James, with the victim complex that he has, just cried to me about how it's not fair that I don't even want to live with my partner yet, but he can't use his and Amy's special spot to propose. I'm worried that if he does propose there, not only may it ruin my future planned proposal with my boyfriend, but it could go wrong between him and Amy and ruin the trip for everyone else. When I expressed this concern, he told me that she has to say yes. So I told him that it was my property in the end, and if he plans on proposing to her, he's not coming on the trip. Today, Amy asked me why James told her that I was yelling at him and telling him he wouldn't be able to come along with us, and I wasn't sure what to say. If he was going to eventually propose, I didn't want to spoil it for her at all. I just brushed it off with "we got into a dumb fight" and to just not worry about it. I feel a little bit selfish for telling him that he can't propose there when I'm not planning to do so for a few years. But it's not a risk I'm willing to take at all. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And your friend sounds like a bozo trying to trap his girlfriend into marriage before she leaves for college. Hold your ground. And it's your house. If you want your proposal there first, whatever. For anyone calling him petty, maybe it is, but I'd be hella petty in the same way. Sometimes you just want your special thing to be yours, especially when the co-opter is a would-be jerk. Not the a-hole. To be honest, your friend needed to hear this. He's very young and clearly dating a woman with big ambitions. You're avoiding a potentially massive awkward situation. Hate people who don't consult about marriage before proposing on their partners. Okay, why would their proposal ruin your future proposal? It's illogical, and you're getting jealous and resentful unnecessarily. So, a piece of life advice. Don't worry about other people's marriages, proposals. On to the main issue. I can understand asking someone not to propose on a group trip, because it would color the whole event for everyone else, and then asking them to do it on a private trip instead. But you went about it a bit childishly and clumsily, because you don't really have the right to stop them from using a public beach. But then there's his reaction and the things he said to you. So I think you wouldn't be the a-hole to kick him off the trip for that alone, not even counting the proposal stuff. Not the a-hole.